setting the news agenda, or being set by it. A channel once heralded as a mouthpiece of freedom and change is fast becoming an instrument of political pressure and propaganda.
That's been ongoing since last April, of 2011. Their senior people, for the head of the bureau in Beirut quit. Many other people quit because of the biased coverage and outright hand of the government in dictating editorial policy over Libya and now Syria.
When he quit a year ago, the head of the bureau said the channel had abandoned professional and objective reporting, claiming it has become an operation room for incitement and mobilization.
I do believe that Al Jazeera and other channels were not balanced in dealing with the events. All are responsible. For instance, with respect to the events in Syria and Bahrain, we started to invite guests from America who only criticize the regime in Syria and support the regime in Bahrain, and persons who justify NATO intervention. This is unacceptable.
Set up 15 years ago, Al Jazeera is owned by the state of Qatar. Its English-language spin-off launched in November 2006.
The English channel, when it was set up, was always intended to be a much softer version of the Arabic channel. The channel, I think, was largely set up to appease the West, and its coverage showed that very clearly. There were few critical programs compared to Arabic Al Jazeera, but it seems now both are working in tandem.
The channel is seen as widely influential in the Middle East. Watched by some 60 million people, it's been buoyed by the recent Arab uprisings. But critics claim it's increasingly become a tool of Qatari and Western policies and views.
It's very disturbing to hear how Al Jazeera is now becoming this regional player for foreign policy in a way that, well, some would arguably say the BBC and others have been for decades. The way Al Jazeera Arabic has covered the story of Syria is completely one-sided.
A charge backed up by another Al Jazeera staffer who complained via email that his bosses refused to publish pictures of armed fighters clashing with the Syrian army. The former Al Jazeera Beirut correspondent said the channel also ignored a referendum on the new constitution in Syria. As for Libya, leaked reports suggest that some of the channel's coverage and setups from Tripoli were fake. Last year, the channel was miraculously granted access to the American media market after initially being banned in the United States. Word is that American officials saw how influential Al Jazeera was in covering the Arab Spring, but it's raised a number of eyebrows and given weight to those critics who say the channel's changed its tune. Begging the question whether Al Jazeera's once revolutionary voice has been drowned out by a louder noise, the agenda of its sponsors. RT contacted Al Jazeera's head office, but the channel was unavailable.